This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Griffiths? This is Stephen, your host with Anthology Books. I have my lifelong friends, Ben and Josh here, and we're talking about Bookshops and Bonedust, the prequel to Legends and Lattes, both by Travis Baldree. And what did you guys think of the book? We'll start with some kind of like non-spoiler stuff, but we'll get into spoilers pretty quick.
So I'm going to preface this and say I might be like the only person out there that listened slash read this before Legends and Lattes.
No,
So I
I bet there's others, but I mean,
really
it's definitely
okay.
like it's probably not the usual reading order just because of the release time, but and honestly, you didn't miss much other than
Yeah,
the very
you're
like
better.
end credits scene. There's
Yeah,
really
no,
hardly any connections other than the character.
yeah. I want to like have a conversation about that like near the like spoiler parts of it or whatever. I know I didn't, but like I think it's still because I'm halfway through Legends and Lattes right now, and so I think that there's some things
Oh,
that
okay.
like I, I don't know would have been like anyway, I want to like wait till spoilers to talk about that if we're doing,
Okay.
you know.
No, I mean, we definitely want to have a conversation, like kind of comparing both of them because there were some things that I thought were kind of strange between the two. And since you're reading it a lot, you're reading it right now, which is sooner than when I read it like last year. That'll
Yeah,
be interesting to hear what you think.
yeah. But overall, I liked it. I mean, I knew that this was kind of like the cozy fantasy trend that kind of became popular last year, and I definitely felt that in this book. Um, I did think it was interesting that a lot of what I understood was that there wasn't like any violence, but like the book opened with a pretty jarring. It wasn't like super violent compared, especially compared to some of the things I've read, but like it was decently violent. So I thought that was just kind of, I was like, I literally checked the title. I'm like, am I looking like listening to the right book right now? Um,
So
so yeah,
expectations were a little strange at first.
yeah, like I guess he's really trying to differentiate the first book and the prequel here. I don't know, but yeah, expectations after that were just um were exactly what I expected. This is my first kind of cozy fantasy book that I've read, and so yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I also liked it. I don't know if it had quite the same magic charm that I feel like Legends and Lattes kind of had. Um, and that might just be because, read Legends and Lattes first. Um, but I feel like the plot, it was snappy, it kept moving, the characters are always enjoyable. Um, no real no big negative. I mean, we'll get into kind of nitpicky things, but I feel like
Mhm.
it produces exactly what it promised. I don't think that's going to be like, favorite books of the year type material. Like, but I enjoyed it. It's always a good read, and it's a pretty easy one to recommend too. If somebody's like looking, oh hey, what's like a good quick read I could pick up. You could see myself
Yeah.
recommending this in Legends and Lattes. It's a little bit almost easier to recommend like Legends and Lattes too now that there's a little bit more built up because it's like there's two things that they can go read too if they want, if they enjoyed it. So
Mhm. Yeah, I too enjoyed it. I liked Legends and Lattes more. And there were some things that I thought were maybe a little strange that were built out more in this book than they were in Legends and Lattes, which I just thought was weird since Legends and Lattes is like further down the timeline. But we can get into that more when we get into spoilers. I thought for me it was a little strange the balance between the higher stakes story and the lower stakes story. Like it was mostly done well, but I found myself caring a lot more about the lower stakes things that were happening and maybe just because that's a little bit different than all of the other fantasy books that I've read that are, save the world. And so when this one really leans into the like, let's just have a good time and make life good, I kind of wanted to hear more about that than save the world or, the big stakes plot. So I mean, there was a good balance, but I just found myself caring more about the smaller stakes thing, which I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but that was just kind of my reading experience.
I agree. It is kind of a strange balance because like it's kind of like you can't I get the theme of like here's somebody that's just like living a regular life but still managing to be a hero with larger stake things. It's almost like you almost want to just really lean into just let's just be a hero just on a small scale, just for the people like around. And like I feel like Legends and Lattes kind of did a better job with that without like spoiling anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There
that's
was
kind of
I
what
still
I
feel
was
a
like
thinking.
little bit of a larger plot, but
Mhm.
this is going to be a kind of an interesting comparison. Um, I feel like it's almost like a Hallmark problem, or like maybe like a Hallmark Christmas movie problem, where it's like, how much
Mhm.
do we lean into the romance versus how much do we lean into just like the cozy charm of having a Christmas movie? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's kind of a similar balance of we all know what you're coming here for, you know, and it's not the world saving plot that might be participated in.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of, and I think it did an okay job balancing that. I for sure, um, maybe because I read this one first, appreciated the fact that there's some kind of larger narrative thing, or like maybe more existential threat that's happening in the background um,
Mhm.
that kind of gives it a kind of a sense of um, purpose or moving the book along or whatever. So
So you kind of appreciated that maybe because it eased you into the whole low stakes genre a little bit more.
yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe um, so I'm about halfway through Legends and Lattes, and so maybe to kind of compare and contrast. I think with Legends and Lattes, I'm okay just kind of sitting there because it's clear that this is where she wants to like end up, is like as the man or as the operator of this coffee shop. But the framing around uh Bone Dust is she doesn't want to end up there. Like she wants to eventually move on, but she's kind of having
Mm,
this small town pull. And so I think that having like a like larger conflict or whatever gives her a sense of, oh, I need to move on so I can experience more things and like interact with the world in this
mm.
type of way. Does that make sense? Like, so there needed to be some type of
So
bigger
based off of
thing.
where the character was at, the
Yeah.
plot decisions kind of make sense to support the character growth over both books.
Right. Because well, the thing is, it's like, um, she was talking to, oh, was it, no, it was Maylee's was the uh she was the person that used to be a adventurer too, right? Or was that Fern?
Well, Maylee was the chef
She's the
dwarf, and
chef.
she did have some adventuring in her background, yeah.
Right, but like she ended up just stopping because, oh, what's another bounty? Just like the moment that she's found a bounty and felt like she didn't even care about catching the guys, kind of the moment she knew she was out,
Mm,
right? But
yeah, yeah.
um but versus Viv, she wasn't there yet. But the reason why she wasn't there yet, I think, is because she has this like larger purpose of like, oh, here's like a existential threat that we're dealing with. So that means I want to go do more things like that. You know what I mean? If it was just a bounty that was like making her feel like she's gonna miss out on some life that she's yet to live, I find that like a little bit more unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. So obviously we're kind of transitioning into spoilers. Just to kind of like wrap up anything else. I think we're saying we all enjoyed the book. Maybe it's tough to compare the two. We'll get into that later in the episode. For me, I mean, I enjoyed the character of Viv. I enjoyed the story. I also really enjoyed the prose. I think it was really well written, and that kind of like added to the feel of everything that was happening. So, yeah, I would recommend it. Both books.
one more one more thing to point out is it is written by Travis Baldree and narrated, and it is still like really kind of hard for me to break away from Cradle because I
Mm-hmm.
brought this up in my Legends and Lattes review, but it's written in a similar enough style to Cradle, which I don't like blame him for because he narrated like 12 of those books or whatever. But
Yeah.
like the prose is similar enough that like sometimes I just like think like I'm back in the Cradle world, like
Wait, so
um
Mm.
did he? I haven't read Cradle. Cradle is written by Will Wright, though, right?
yeah, but
Will
Travis
But
Wright,
Baldree
yeah.
narrated.
narrated it. And so he
Interesting.
narrated and wrote
Uh,
this.
so
And
it would
so
be like
it would be like
if
Michael Kramer and Kate
Stephen
Redding.
Pacey. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, it would be like if Michael Kramer and Kate Redding wrote like a
Epic
similar,
fantasy book.
but like not quite epic, because like definitely this is different than Cradle, but like it's pretty similar in some ways,
Uh,
and like and so you just kind of catch yourself. It's kind of, I mean, similar to like the fact that like sometimes if you're reading like Lord or Wheel of Time and then like the Cosmere, they're like pretty similar style prose in some ways and like pretty similar
Yeah,
stories in some
like
ways.
level of detail. Yeah,
And then like so you could just kind of forget that, like, oh dang, am I back in, you
yeah,
know,
I
you
see.
could, yeah,
Yeah,
especially by the end of Wheel of Time.
especially by the Wheel of Time. But even throughout, you know what I mean? Like you could just kind of
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
that. Like,
There,
am I listening to Mistborn right now, or am I listening to, I
yes.
don't know.
so
Yeah.
that's actually very interesting because I in my mind I'm like, this guy's a ridiculously good narrator. Like he has no right if he's just like an author to be like this good of narrator, you know. And then
Uh-huh.
I thought about Black Tongue Thief, and I was like, that guy was ridiculously good too, but he was also
Yeah.
like an actor too. And so anyway,
Christopher
I'm like, what is
Buellman
this is
is that guy.
a double threat forming here, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
no, it is good. And I think he was like, wasn't he like an engineer or something? He had like some uh job not related to things, to uh writing
I
at
am
all. And
not
or
sure.
was this, I think this, maybe this is Will White. I'm confusing him with
Not
okay,
sure.
we can
I haven't
scratch
done
that.
my background research into Travis Baldree, although he did appear on a funny YouTube sketch called Between Two Ferns, which if you hadn't seen, check those out.
well, if we had Jake here, he would probably be criticizing his pronunciation of the names of uh yeah, so I think the other thing that I will say is like from a non-spoiler section, it was just pretty funny. Like I wasn't expecting the level of funniness that went into it
Mhm.
of like, oh, um, whether it be kind of like the romance books that Viv
Yeah.
is reading or
Yeah,
just whatever, like these little humorous
definitely a lot
touches.
of kind of modern influences inserted into the story, made it funny and interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I was kind of right. He was a video game designer. Um
Oh,
Ah, okay.
and then he wanted to be a narrator, and so he's got into narrating, just kind of huge career change, and then he got into
Yeah,
writing.
what an
Yeah.
inspiration
What an
to have
inspiration, man.
what a life.
the
I think all of us would
courage
choose
to
that life
switch
if we
careers like that. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
especially when you're like a video game designer. I feel like a lot of people would enjoy doing that. I know that
Well, he
that
was,
job has its,
well,
drawbacks,
yeah,
but
he started doing video games in 1998, so I think he probably did it for like
Mm.
15 years or whatever. And then
well,
anyway, cool times, but
All
way
right.
to go.
So yeah, we let's just like get fully into the story. So to just stick on this like comparison between Legends and Lattes. So back to what I said before, I still stand by that I felt like Legends and Lattes drew me in more because I really cared about the success of the coffee shop. And
Yeah.
obviously we don't want to do too many spoilers for Legends and Lattes because Ben hasn't finished it yet. But I felt like that was more of the sole focus of the book. And here with the bookshop, I was like, yeah, I want this to succeed, but at the same time, like we're not counting money in the same way. And it just like I was a little disconnected from the success because Viv maybe didn't care about it quite as much as she cared about the coffee shop. So maybe that was the struggle for me, which is really weird because you think like I would be much more invested in the success of a bookshop than a coffee shop, but it was actually the opposite way around for these two books.
yeah,
Yeah.
I see. This is interesting because obviously I don't know how it ends, but I'm taking the success of the coffee shop as kind of like preordained, because it's just if
I
it's
mean,
the
you
whole
hope so,
point of
right?
the
Like
book,
it's that's got like the happy vibe. So you would
right?
think that, yeah.
And coming off of
But keep
um
reading, keep writing. There will,
okay, okay.
we'll
And
see.
coming off of Bookshelf and Bonedust, it's kind of um like I saw that one ended up working out for everybody.
Kind
So
of. It was a bittersweet. It was
It's
a
yeah,
bittersweet end.
yeah, it was.
it was much more sweet than bitter. I mean, she
Well,
left,
I mean,
but
with
She
her
left.
leaving and having to say
She left
goodbyes, like
her.
yeah,
She left her fling, like that. She was, you know,
yeah,
could have
sure.
had a life with.
I'm saying that it was a
although
happy
plus
ending
Ben,
for the
if you
bookshop.
finished bookshops and Bone Dust, you saw the end credit scenes. You kind of saw, what's
Oh,
happened at the
that's
end of
true.
Legends and Lattes. Anyway, yeah, keep
Mm,
on going.
yeah. So I don't know. I think that it's still like, journey before destination for me on this one. It's like I'm enjoying the process of them figuring out like the cinnamon rolls and stuff. But going back to Bookshop, it uh I felt like I can see where you're getting at. Like it's kind of she just happens to be there, and so she just happens to kind of be, oh, why don't we do this idea and why don't we do that idea? There's no like sense of urgency in her um developing this business and developing this circle of friends. It
Mhm.
almost just kind of falls into her lap. So I can see that. I can see why you wouldn't be as invested.
Yeah, yeah, right. But at the same time, I think you made a good point by saying, the plot makes sense because that's who the character was at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree by that. I think from a narrative standpoint, that decision really makes sense to structure the book that way. If it's a younger Viv who is going to go off on a adventure, like it would be really weird if the bookshop was super successful and that was most of the plot and like nothing else really happened, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, okay, by the way, I am still going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, what about you? Did you care about the bookshop or the coffee shop more?
Oh, definitely coffee shop. The bookshop, the coffee shop felt like a character. The bookshop felt like a setting, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
it was fine, but like it wasn't, it
Hmm.
wasn't anything that I really cared about either way.
See, it's so funny because when I first started reading Bookshop, I assumed, like for probably the first half of the book, that this was the story of how the coffee shop, Legends and Lattes, became a coffee
Uh,
shop.
okay.
And so I
Oh,
thought, oh, they're going to transition
like
from like
it was gonna die. The bookshop was gonna die and give birth to
not
legends and
even die.
lattes.
I thought that I thought, because you just read Legends and Lattes. And so in my mind, that was like this cool bookshop slash
Or like the
coffee
books,
shop.
or like the books
Yeah,
were the
like
legends.
the books were the
That would be cool.
legends, and they're
Oh, that would
reading
be
these
cool.
books. Yeah, and so I was like, oh, we're gonna see how this coffee shop like starts. That for like the first probably quarter of the book, I felt like that was the story in my limited knowledge of things.
Mm.
Um, and so I think it did kind of uh give me this like connected me more as like the to the bookshop as like a character like Josh was describing, because I'm like, oh, we're probably gonna find out like why the I don't know why things are this the way they are in this like really unique setting that we're gonna read about in Legends. So yeah, I don't know, totally wrong, but I think it connected me to the place a little bit more.
So and again, your expectations were kind of confused you going into the books.
I was, yeah, for sure. I got hoodwinked a few times in this
Yeah.
in reading this, all because of my weird assumptions. Nothing. That's why I want to say that like this is not no aspersions on the book because of this mix up, but
The one other thing that kind of confused me between the two books, and I would not sound stupid saying this, but it felt like in Legends and Lattes, and I'm just gonna kind of this isn't like a big thing. I feel like you kind of already know this, especially since you've read Bookshops and Bonedust. Like the romance in Legends and Lattes kind of felt like Viv was almost discovering her sexuality to some degree, but in Bookshops and Bonedust, it like felt like it was already established. Like she was almost more comfortable romantically in the prequel than she was in the sequel, which felt just kind of weird to me.
yeah, I could see that.
I mean, she was like
At least,
awkward in both, but I don't know, it just felt a little weird because like after reading Legends and Lattes, I was like, she shouldn't, I don't know, it felt like she should have been more awkward about things in the years in the earlier years of her life based off where she was at in the book that I had already read.
yeah,
I think
I
that's a
can
good
relate to that.
observation.
I haven't gotten to the romantic part of Legends yet. It's just they're just I don't know, whatever. There's been no romance really.
Mm-hmm.
They just had like the awkward hiring interview. But so Um, I think that the way to explain that would be if Viv just went back to adventuring and like didn't have any other type of
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
And you know what I mean? Because you have like a college fling and then don't date again until you're
Hmm.
45 or
Yeah,
50.
like
Like there's
20
gonna be
years
some awkwardness.
passes and
Yeah.
then you're kind of a whole new person trying to kind of rediscover that part of your life. Yeah, that's fair.
But I do agree, like your point is very well taken, and the fact that like especially because Viv in both books doesn't seem like she seems like she's a person that like actively tries to learn throughout her life. So it doesn't feel like she's just gonna like forget these lessons. You know what I mean? And like
Hmm.
it seems like she's a very thoughtful person who like uh just tries to progress. And people like that don't like backslide to that extent. So
Yeah. Yeah, right. She's very, I don't know what is the word? I think you said it well. She is very open-minded and she's trying to actively like better who she is as a person. And it does seem weird that time passes and she is like not as assured of herself as she was previously, especially when like it seems like she's been fairly successful in her pursuits. Like, yes, maybe there was not any romantic opportunities over the years. But at the same time, like I feel like she was very self-assured in who she was after, all the years of successfully adventuring.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like reading between the lines too much, but felt a little strange.
No, that's a good critique, I think. And again, but I think a critique that only exists if you're like comparing the books. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I would have
Yeah.
picked up on the critique from either one specifically. And that might be like part of the difficulty, I guess, of writing a prequel because you want
Hmm.
it's just interesting as an author trying to figure out what audiences expect because at one level you do want to have your character progress, but on another level you have to like set them back far enough to enable them to progress to a point that they
Yeah.
would be before. You know what I mean? I didn't really do a
Yeah.
great job of explaining that, but
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you think about the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and they kind of struggle with that a lot in some ways. Like, you know, I guess with Anakin, and I don't know, we don't have to go down that whole road, but like, then you just get Anakin appearing as like super super whiny or whatever.
Star Wars, the original cozy fantasy.
Could have been.
So
Luke
comparisons
just
to
stays
Star
there and
Wars. Yeah,
harvest
go
the
ahead.
water or whatever. Like Anakin just stays there and just keeps working on
The moisture farm.
the moisture farm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah. So comparisons to Star Wars and to Hallmark movies. So clearly we're on to some astute points here.
So
What were
where
impressions of like other characters or events or like what were highlights?
the villain was fine. I mean, we talked about that a little bit. I like the homunculus a lot. It's fun to have like dwarves and like having all these
Mm,
kind of fantasy races being in there. I like when you go a little bit deeper and you come out with something like the homunculus. It's a lot of fun. The necromancer, I feel like was fine when it came to necromancers. Like, it's hard. It's a hard balance because it's a very heavy subject for like a very light book. So
yeah.
it's kind of hard
Seemed
to
like
do well.
very much, a mustache twirling villain who came on the scene and who I will destroy you all, but
I
not
do think
because
it would have
maybe
been cool had she like gotten some boon or something from her, or like that's what I was like expecting. The ending is like she gave her back her boon or her book in exchange for some, I don't know,
well, she did get the
something.
sword. The sword was one
Yeah.
of the few connections
It's
between
true.
the two books.
It's true. Yeah. But like something that would make it easier for her to, I don't know. You're right. The sword was the connection, but like,
So that's actually one of the critiques I was going to bring up with I think the reading order that it manifests itself because of the reading order. What was it? Bone Hunter or what's the name of the sword? Whatever, the sword,
Black blood, I
Black
think.
Blood.
Yeah, black blood.
So I feel like uh in Bookshop when she found Black Blood, there was like this it was almost like a like Arthur moment of her like pulling out the sword and it like fitting in her hand. And I don't feel like it was. I'm like, okay, what's the point? Like, why is this sword special? What, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, that's kind of weird. But if you knew that she like, um, if you had read Legends and Lattes first and you like, I mean, nothing's even happened in that book for me yet with that sword, but like she had it, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And so anyway, I feel like, for me that whole like sequence just kind of rang a little bit hollow, because there it wasn't earned at all, right? Like I didn't know that she ended up spending the next 20 years with the sword or whatever
Mm.
after that. So minor
I
critique.
mean, you're always gonna miss Easter eggs if you haven't seen
Yeah.
the other things, right?
Yeah, but I felt like it was a little bit more than an Easter egg because it ends up being like kind of an important plot development because like that's
Mm,
how like she's tracked or whatever. Like that's how the necromancer lady knows where to find them and stuff because she removes something from the book and doesn't put it back. And
yeah.
so it was like I'm like, why is this sword like just put it back? You know what I mean? Like it's a sword. Um so I don't know. That was kind of uh my one
I can't
critique.
remember if the plot allowed for it to be put back and like undone, or if it was like once you take something,
It was probably that
she
too, but
she
I
has
think that
seen
her
you like putting on the ring,
I
right?
think that Hermunculus guy was kind of like urging her to put it back and she didn't want to. And also like if you just reach in and feel a sword, you're like, is this really worth taking a
Yeah.
sword? Like
I
what's
mean,
the risk benefit?
at least it kind of drew us back to one of the larger character motivations, which was, she wants to be adventuring, and so she's got this cool sword. And it was like, to make the same ring analogy, like it was kind of tempting her, like, hey, you got the cool sword, you should really commit to getting back on that adventure. And that was kind of her back and forth the whole book was, I want to go on this adventure, but I like these people, but at the same time, like, is this my whole life? Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And your point is very well taken, especially considering you have an awesome sword right behind you right now, Steven. So
Oh yeah. Probably not as big as Black Blood though. Like that was like a big
Hopefully
two-handed
not.
greatsword thing. Yeah. Got like long claw vibes, like a big hand and a half bastard sword type thing.
love it. Um yeah, sorry, that was a tangent.
I mean, other things other than the sword. For me, I think my favorite moment was when the author Zelia Greatstrider came for the big reopening and signing. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the bookshop parts more, and that part was really cool. And stuff like that, like when I said before that they kind of like interjected some modern things, like the bookshop felt very modern in the way that they brought in, the author signing, and
Mhm.
they innovated with the mystery book packages,
Yeah,
which
the
sounds
packages.
fun.
It
Yeah, I
does
feel
Yeah,
sound
like I,
fun.
I feel like I would be into something like that.
100%.
we would totally
If
be
you
into
walked
something like
in,
that.
if you walked in, took a little survey, got to know the shopkeeper, and then they're like, "Oh, let me put together a little, or let me give you a pre put together
Yeah,
package." That would be awesome.
that would be
Yeah.
cool. I guess.
Fantology can offer a service like that too.
Wait, I mean, we can recommend, but I don't know if we can provide the books
Yeah, just
unless I'm forced to
use,
give away my books.
no, use our Amazon link. Just
Oh,
say,
yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah, we'll
follow through.
we'll
Actually,
recommend and you buy.
that's something we should put on our site. For those of you that don't know, we have a barely functioning site, but we no, it's not. But we could do like a little chat
The site
GPT.
functions well, Josh, for what it
This
is.
the site does function well.
The
I
fun
didn't mean barely functioning
a
site.
barely visited site,
A
we
barely
should
Sure.
say.
visited site. We should look at the analytics. There's probably 4 visits. It's probably mostly from me going back and referring to our previous episode art, so I can keep the like thumbnails consistent. Like when, anyway, uh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but we could do like a little chat GPT thing where somebody like puts in like the prompt and then like chat GPT like gives them a recommendation and then gives them links to
No, that takes away the whole
no
vibe of the recommend.
no but it's but
We have to be the ones giving them the recommendation.
it has to be like it can be an AI trained on all of our Fantology um episodes.
I guess we're really thinking about how to scale this thing
Yeah.
before we even get off the ground here. Yeah, once we start getting a ton of recommendations and really get the cash flowing through on the recommendation plan, then slowly move it off to AI.
Spend thousands of dollars probably at that point training 200 hours of Fantology episode content.
Yeah, this is a
See,
really this is a
this is
viable
still part of the
business.
review of the book because this is how businesses are formed and created and
Yeah.
nurtured. So we
Exactly.
thought that we just had a business plan
It's really
meeting, but
meta. This is very
yeah,
meta. But anyway, yeah, I like the Zelia Great Strider signing party.
that was awesome. I thought that there's like a lot of like undercurrents with her and her friend, warder, protector
Yeah, warder is
guy.
probably a good word.
Warder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I d- there's like a lot of unspoken stuff with that like those interactions, you know what I mean? And wasn't
Well,
sure.
I
I was
mean,
like,
no, I think you got it. Like they were obviously a thing, and it was a big thing for Viv's character as well when he kind of gave her the advice of like, look, the moments are never really exactly right, but you just kind of have to make the most of what you have now and and enjoy it. And I guess that was
yeah,
helpful for her character. At the same time, I don't know, maybe it just kind of like helped her rectify the fact that she was there for the time and she was like still making good on the people that were around her. She wasn't just like up and leaving them and destroying their lives. It's just kind of how life works at the time. Or it's how that's how life works sometimes. But yeah, I mean there was definitely there was some, thing going on between Zelia and the warder guy.
Yeah, which is always that's always a fun thing to think, to not think about, but like those relationships are always interesting to see how they would progress and think about them progressing, the
Yeah.
Land Moraine relationship. But
Other things for you guys, I mean, I thought the Magic Necromancy book was also cool. We kind of already touched on that. There were a lot of fairly tropey things that were brought in, but done in like fun enough ways where it felt somewhat original still.
yeah, the Hermunculus I think was my favorite part of, maybe not of the book, but like I think that was my favorite like kind of plot
Whenever
device, whatever.
Satchel was on screen,
Satchel. Yeah.
yeah, he was funny. Like this, he was kind of like the robot
Frankenstein.
almost,
Yeah.
like he doesn't really understand all of human, or I guess not human, all of what would you call it?
Sentient intelligence.
Yeah, other life form interactions. But at the same time, like his observations were funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought there was just enough of that kind of stuff sprinkled in there that it kept the setting feeling unique, kind of the whole book. And it is like knowing that he was a video game designer. It kind of did feel like that, where it's like, oh, what's the new like fresh, thing that we're going to be introduced here to like keep us interested
Mhm.
in the world that we're living in.
Well, and the Cradle influence, I mean, this is not progressionist fantasy, but there were like definite vibes of we are leveling up the bookshop and we are leveling up the coffee shop. So there are those, and that's what I really liked about Legends and Lattes. Like every time the coffee shop got some new thing added to it, I was really pumped to see how it was going to work out. And there were not quite enough of those things in Bookshops and Bonedust that maybe that's going back to my thing of like why didn't I not like it quite as much.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, at some level, there's not as much to a bookshop as there is a coffee shop. Uh, I mean, I think that they did, pretty well with what they, you
Yeah,
know,
like you got
what
to
they
clean
had.
it up, make it look nice, and then get new books, and then what else can you do? They
Get
innovated a little bit
authors
with the
to
way they
come
were
in.
selling. They
Yeah.
brought the author in. They sold the food at the same time. Actually, did they sell the food or did they just like have it as an extra incentive? Anyway, there were a few things that they did, sure. So yeah, maybe he just like ran out of ideas for ways that the bookshop could level up. Yeah. Any other things to mention? I guess another connection to like modern day was like the moist books, which were funny and
I like
relevant for current. book
he's just like
trends.
waiting for a Murphy like comment on her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Is that something she's really into? I haven't
She
Well,
followed
hers is
Murphy's
mostly
channel enough.
no,
undulating. Yeah, there you go.
undulating is her thing. She
Mm.
hates the word undulating, which Sanderson put that in one of his books. So
Just for her.
in Tress, I think he put it in for her. Yeah.
Oh, really? I did
Yeah.
not know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't follow her channel enough.
She has a new channel
But
for her books, but yeah.
but I mean, I just thought that the insertion of this as a joke and a big uh plot, not a plot device, but a reoccurring joke was kind of relevant with
It's
the
funny.
whole
Yeah.
with the romanticy emergence. Like the timing is right for this. It was funny.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Definitely. It was like just enough of a like breaking the fourth wall,
Yeah.
and like something that has probably always been, done. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All
Yeah, what
right.
else? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I
Pretty,
mean, we can just talk about the ending. Like I felt like this was a good tie-in. The ending really added a lot for me, I should say. As someone who read Legends and Lattes, I really enjoyed getting the zoom ahead and seeing the connections, and also a potential sequel to both books
That would
where
be
both
cool.
worlds kind of come together. I feel like that's on the table with what we saw.
yeah, I want to go back and reread it after I finish Legends.
Right.
Because to me it was just kind of like, okay, so it didn't really hit like it probably should have.
Yeah, you definitely would not have picked up on who the other character was there or some of the like coffee shop references that were happening. But
Yeah.
yeah, you should reread it for sure. And I don't know if it as much signaled another book or if it was just kind of there to really tie both books' character arcs together. And I think that was done well. So even
Yeah.
if there's not another book, I would be satisfied, at least with this. I feel
I
like
don't
this
know if
ending.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I'd be fully satisfied with it. I think there
You
needs to
need
be a
another
third
book?
book. I need another book.
Hmm.
I
Bookshops
don't
and
think
There's for sure
bookshops
going to
and
be another
lattes.
book. Why why wouldn't there be? I mean, I feel like these are very successful. It doesn't
Hmm.
seem like was he able to write this one in like a year? Did he have it like pre-written or anything? I mean,
You wrote it pretty quick, yeah.
yeah,
I
I
think,
feel like,
yeah.
you know, like if you're a good enough author to do that, then you might as well just pop
Okay.
another one, you know.
So Ben always recommends milking a intellectual property.
milk it.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
If you
I mean,
can
I
do
just
it, you got to do it.
I don't feel like it's played out enough yet. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and these books are really popular and like pretty much universally approved of and rated well. So yeah, it
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do a pre-prequel.
Yeah,
Go back in time until she's born.
I don't think there's room for that. I think we need a sequel to both, like
Yeah.
a tie-up of the whole thing.
It definitely seems like that's where
Hmm.
like after the end credits scene, that's where it's going
Which, if that
for.
was to happen, it'd be interesting to see like 5 years from now what the recommended reading order would be, publication order or just like chronological order. I'm sure
Yeah.
there will be debates on Reddit about this.
No, there's not. This isn't deep enough for the Reddit crowd. There needs to be at least like 15 of these books before that starts to happen.
Not highbrow enough for Reddit.
Not highbrow. Not. I mean, you gotta at least be Discworld level.
It needs
Yeah.
to be either highbrow or lowbrow, but not the
Mm.
no brow. Just making stuff up. I'm tired.
All right. This is fun, guys. Good review. Talk to you later.
All
Oh, I
right.
should say, if you want to see more Fantology, yeah, we're a little tired, little out of sync here, but if you want to see more Fantology, you can find our website that
Our
Josh
website,
frequents.
pitching the
Yeah,
website.
that is, yeah, we're really hitting the website hard on this one. That is in the episode descriptions below. And you can find, all of our social media stuff, comment wherever. We'll try to get back to you. And if you want to chat with us, that's kind of the funnest thing. You can join our Discord. we've been really kind of reviving the book club thing, and almost every other month we're doing a pretty dedicated book club with people that are on Discord. So
And
come
I think
join the
last year
community.
we did a book club for Legends and Lattes, right? That was one of the books that you guys read.
Was that book
Did
club
we?
book?
I don't remember. Did we do it?
I
I
think it
thought it
was.
was because I
think
really
it was.
wanted to do it. I was crazy busy at the time, so I still am.
Sounds.
But
Let's claim it. Let's at this
we're
point we
planning.
need to claim it. Yeah. So awesome books like Legends and Lattes could be discussed in real time on our Discord server.
Yes.
Do not miss that opportunity. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
All right. See you, Steven.
All
See you,
right.
Josh.
See you, bud.